Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising.
Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, Misty Rose Gold, International Success Coach. And here at Wealthy Mind, we love to help you create and maintain a wealthy mind. So today, I have with me a very, very, very special human being. His name is Bret. Hi, Bret.
Hi, Misty.
How are you?
I'm doing fabulous.
Good. Fabulous is a good word. I like that word. It's got some sparkle to it. That's good. All right, Bret. So tell us your full name and what do you do?
My name is Bret Allen Wickstrom. What I do is I run a company called Wicker's Bookkeeping Services, and we are a fully functioning accounting firm, with the exception of income tax.
Mm,
But we do partner with another company that does do income tax. Handle pretty much your bookkeeping, your QuickBooks. I maintain your QuickBooks and also can add in on that payroll accounting services. Plus, if you're one of those companies that has to do monthly sales taxes, I can do that as well.
okay. So help the general population of the business community and anyone else who listens to this fun and lovely podcast. Um, how do we understand the difference between bookkeeping and CPAs?
CPAs usually work on a very high level, and I mean much more complex accounting issues. Also, their charge is way higher because obviously they have to pay for the CPA designation, and that
Mm-hmm.
usually goes into the price. And bookkeepers, as for myself, I graduated with a degree in accounting
Okay.
from the Colorado or the University. Let's see. Actually, it's the Metropolitan State College of Denver. It's now changed its name, but back then it was the Metropolitan State College of Denver. And I just had a accounting degree like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else. So my cost can still be considerably a lot less than someone who's a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
Also, CPAs don't really go into the detail of the bookkeeping. One is more expensive and they charge at a higher hourly rate,
Mm-hmm.
or they're usually doing auditing or tax. Those are
Mm-hmm.
usually the two areas where that CPAs focus. So they're not really interested in the day-to-day bookkeeping or financial analysis.
Okay. So when businesses are looking at, do I need a bookkeeper right now or do I need a CPA? The answer is both, right?
It would be both. CPA would be either auditing or at the year-end tax area. But yeah, bookkeepers usually might be the first to get in involved
Hmm.
and start building the books for that end game in mind. And the end game being tax or auditing.
Okay. So do you communicate well with their CPA, their tax prep person?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And when they ask me a question, I'm able to answer it. The lay person or the business person might not know what they need to do or what that means. They wouldn't have the technical experience for the CPA to get the answer. But if it comes to me, I know what he's talking about.
Okay, that's good insight because a lot of business owners suck with their money.
Right,
Um, unless they're like in the financial industry, right? So,
right.
um, just, putting it bluntly, because it is what it is, right? I see a lot of business owners on a regular basis, and most of them are like, yeah, I suck with my money. I don't budget. I don't save. I don't, whatever, whatever. Like, how do you really give that business owner a peace of mind when you're working on their day-to-day finances?
A lot of it has to do with, first of all, the stack of papers go down. They're actually getting stuff done. Uh, and things are getting filed. So, like, if we have to look for, a good example would be, um, there's a bill that's paid and he needs information, he needs detailed information on that bill that had just been paid. Well, I can go in and pull that file with that paperwork and say, here you go, and really reduces the amount of research that has to be done,
Hmm.
depending
Okay.
on the complexity of the question. But if it's just, when was this paid? Two things track it: QuickBooks, the accounting software, or you have the hard copies in files. And usually those are easy for me to find because I did the filing.
Hmm. Okay. So when we're thinking about how businesses are run, do you feel like you are a necessary component of another person's business?
Yes, I do, very much so. But there are certain areas, and really in the payroll area, it can get really dark and daunting for the business owner because there's so many things in the payroll tax area that can really bog down the business owner who really doesn't know much about state tax and federal tax. And and one example is that we got a letter in the mail. One of my clients got a letter in the mail, and it had to do with the IRS. And they sent down information they needed on filed 941s, which are payroll related.
Hmm.
Well, I was able to pull, bank statements that showed money going out
Hmm.
to the IRS. I was able to pull the 941 reports so that we can mail those back to the IRS and solve that issue.
Okay.
Um, they actually and with that letter, they sent that we owed them, I think, about $19,000 on one of the 941s, and this person's payroll isn't even that high. So I found that 941, and it turned out the 941 reported only $2,200. Now we'll send that back to the IRS and say, this is the correct amount, what's on our 941, what we show that we owed.
Hmm.
And that's just one thing, but a business owner gets that letter in the mail, and usually they would go into a panic mode.
Because they don't know what it is,
They
right?
don't know what it is, they don't know why it's that high, and even they may know that they never paid their employees that high amount. They don't know how to solve it. Well, I
Hmm.
was able to solve it by going in and finding the original 941 and saying, no, you guys have sort of tacked on an amount that is erroneous, and then we'll send them supplementary documents to help them or help the client be on the right footing once again.
Hmm. Okay. So you can handle complex issues.
Correct.
That's awesome. Good to know. So that can create peace of mind for people. It's like, well, why do I need a bookkeeper? I have QuickBooks. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that objection before. How do you
Right.
answer it? How do you come at that?
Well, I answer it by saying, well, first of all, QuickBooks has sort of mirrored itself to accountants. And what I mean by that statement is that accountants want QuickBooks to be able to handle something that they know of, and the business owner doesn't know much about that particular area. And so QuickBooks would accommodate accountants in what they want that system to solve or what they want that system to do.
Hmm.
Well, the point is that it's so far more complicated than just a fast way of entering in your data and getting a report out. There's so much more that goes into it that bookkeepers know and understand. And so when we're looking at information, we analyze the P&L, the balance sheet, we know what we need to adjust. The lay person, the lay business person may not. In other
Mm,
words, they know how to do certain tasks in QuickBooks, but they don't know the entire system and what it's designed to do. And that's where bookkeepers come in.
okay. So if businesses are looking to take their business to the next level and take some of that extra stress and time and headache off of their plate so they can focus on what they're good at, I'm hearing that they should probably entertain bringing on a bookkeeper.
Correct. As always, yes.
Hmm. Okay. Very cool. So let's go into maybe some client examples. Do you have a few examples that you can share with us of like, what does your client do and what do you do for them so that people can really see how you might fit into their world?
Okay. I've got one that is a general contractor, Buckley LLC. He's based out of Idaho Springs.
Hmm.
And I go in there pretty much once a week and just work on his books or work on his paperwork, work on the bills that need to go out to vendors, work on the payroll. He's got about 7 employees
Hmm.
that need payroll done. I'll write the payroll check and get those ready to be handed out to his employees and his 1099 contractors.
Okay.
I actually do some billings. And if there's one of his invoices needs to go out to his largest customer in that area, which happens to be Argo Mine, I can handle that.
Hmm.
Uh, he has basically asked me to handle all of the accounting duties. He doesn't want to do anything. So anything that's accounting related, I'm there to do it for him. And it should be noted that I do actually go into his office
Mm,
once a week and work out of his office.
yeah.
And that makes it easy to, get documents that I might need. Um, Go into his email and pull the necessary invoices or bills or
Hmm.
payables and put them into QuickBooks so that it's scheduled and ready to be paid and at a certain time, at a certain due date.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's pretty much doing that for him. And my other client is Jeremiah Johnson, Log
So
Homes.
before we move on to
Oh,
the next client, so you're willing to drive to your client's location?
yes, I am. Yes,
Okay. So you're kind of like a fractional bookkeeper and
correct.
not an in-house bookkeeper, but fractional. Okay, cool.
Right.
That's how my brain is understanding it, which
Sure.
I think is pretty awesome. Now, can you work remotely with your clients as well?
Yes, I can. I have, because I am a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, I get on the QuickBooks online and I usually download the statements I need and can work out of my own office on those. But these are more simplistic clients.
Sure.
These aren't requiring me to write checks and send checks in the mail or any of that other stuff. So,
Hmm.
excuse me. So, I'm usually doing like bank statement reconciliation, credit card reconciliation, and then print out a report and send them email them the report at the end of it, which shows just how did I do this month and or quarter or year.
Okay, so for clients that have more simple financials, you can do remote.
Correct.
And then the bigger companies with more complex financials, you come in as a fractional bookkeeper.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm understanding. I just want to make sure I'm getting it. All right. Okay. Very cool. Okay. Next client.
The next client is Jeremiah Johnson Log Homes, and he's based out of 1 mile west of Idaho Springs. and that's in the town of Dumont.
Okay.
And he builds a lot of cabins. A lot of them are in the Colorado area, and he's done a few that have been in Utah or Idaho. And and I go in there and pretty much do the same thing that I do for the other general contractor. Once a week, I go into his cabin, which is the office,
Mm,
and pay the bills, get the bills ready to pay, mail off checks that need to be mailed, and uh, and then I usually go in there and reconcile the bank account and get financials ready for publishing and uh, and yeah, pretty much that. He does have payroll done. He's only two employees,
hmm.
and then actually four when you can include him and his wife. But yeah, I'm doing that work and doing making sure that the payroll taxes are filed through the federal and the state, and just pretty much manage his office.
That's
And
cool.
he goes back and forth to Minnesota a lot, so usually I'm in the cabin all by my lonesome, handling the accounting for him.
Yeah, that's nice. So there was a buzzword that I picked up on in there that you pay the bills. So I'm starting to really see this come together with your explanations and your client examples. So let's say you're a business owner and you just don't want to touch the bills. You don't want to touch your invoices. You don't want to touch those things. Like they can have you come in as a contract worker and just say, you know what? Handle my bills for me. I don't want to touch them. Bills are like a cuss word to me, like I
Yeah,
can see that. I can see like so many examples in my personal life and in my professional life where I don't want to pay the bills. Who wants to open all the mail with all the bills? You know what I mean?
right. And I do that for Jeremiah Johnson. I actually go into his post office box, pull the mail, and I actually go through each letter. And okay, well, that's a bill. I need to put that aside for future use or in
Mm,
future payment. And then, if there's something that personal, I'll put it up on his desk. And stuff from the state that has to do with hunting,
hmm.
one of his pleasures. But outside of that, I'm actually going through the mail piece by piece. And if something needs to be recorded in the QuickBooks, I will go ahead and record it in the QuickBooks.
Very nice. Okay, so you pick up the mail, go through it. There's so many people that are going to be listening to this episode and they're going to be like, I hate getting the mail and I hate opening the mail and I hate paying the bills. Well, guess what? You all should talk to Brett.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you have another client example for us?
I have actually one that is quite less, but this person is a drywall person. They put drywall up for all the new construction projects, apartments, condos, etc.
Hmm.
And but him, I'm only doing just the reconciling the bank account. And I just go through the bank account. He's paying the checks. He's doing all of that, but he doesn't know the first thing about reconciling the bank statement to the QuickBooks accounting system, and that's what I do for him. And go
Okay.
through that, reconcile the deposits, make sure everything matches, everything's checked off, and that kind of thing. And he's also in the construction industry, but yeah,
Hmm.
but his is a lot less because I'm not really managing the payables or any of that. I'm just going through the bank statement, and if there's any discrepancies, I'll make note of it. But so far, there hasn't been. It's been pretty straightforward.
Okay, so in layman's terms, what does reconciling mean?
Okay, reconciling is matching the actual bank statement to what is recorded in QuickBooks and marking off what has been recorded in the QuickBooks as you go down the bank statement with a ruler or whatever, your eyes. And oh, okay, well, this one cleared, this one cleared. And at the end of that cycle, the difference between the QuickBooks and what you recorded as the ending balance of your bank statement should be zero. When it's zero, success. You reconcile those two statements.
Why is it important to have them match up?
Because when they don't, you have a discrepancy and you need to find out why. And those discrepancies can be large or they can be small. But you need to make sure that everything that is on that statement has been recorded in the QuickBooks. And that's what drives your balance sheet and that's what drives your P&L. And like I said before, if your balance sheet is wrong, your P&L is wrong. Therefore, you make erroneous decisions based on a P&L that is not quite accurate. And
Okay.
that's where that end of the reconciliation comes. It
So
should
just
be it should be noted that you can reconcile cash, like a checking account.
mm,
You can reconcile credit card statements, and you can reconcile anything that's on the balance sheet that needs to be looked at and examined.
okay. Can you give us an example of some common discrepancies that you see between the bank account and QuickBooks?
Sure. Maybe there was one there. Good possible one is that you left off a check and you didn't record it in the QuickBooks. I come in and I catch that because I'm looking at the bank statement and there are, let's say, 2 or 3 missing checks.
Hmm.
What happened to those? And one way I would solve that is usually I ask my client to give me access to the bank account so I can go in and look at myself. And I'm only doing it for information. So I don't usually, I never do the where I'm transferring money or doing that, but I'm only looking at it from, okay, well, this check is missing, and what was it? And then I can
Mm-hmm.
actually re-record it and get it reconciled into the QuickBooks.
Okay. So all of that affects the profit and loss statement.
Correct.
And now why is a P&L important?
A P&L is important because it shows the revenue coming in, the cost of goods sold going out, which has to do with the term cost of goods sold is that these are expenses that would not normally be in your business unless you sold a product or service. So they're directly tied to the revenue that's coming in. And an expense account or anything below the line of a chart of cost of goods sold is there only because whether you sell a product or not, it's going to be there.
Mm,
Rent, utilities, any of these type of business expenses aren't necessarily tied to a basically a revenue account. And so when you want to make sure that your cost of goods sold are at a good margin, that things are what they should be, that's where cost of goods sold comes in. And if you have to make adjustments, it's usually a lot easier to make an adjustment in your cost of goods sold than it is in your fixed expenses.
okay. So how does a profit and loss statement tie into a business when they want to look at how do we increase our revenue?
Uh,
How does the profit and loss affect their decision-making process?
I can, and yeah, that's a good question. And that question is usually answered in how the revenue is recorded. Let's start with the revenue. Let's forget about the expenses so right now. And was the bill and all the invoices gone out? Had all the invoices been paid? And that's where analyzing the balance sheet is very important because you may get all your billings out there, but all of a sudden your deposits aren't really matching up.
Mm,
And you notice that with something that's called a growing accounts receivable. When your accounts receivable is growing and you're not really having any more in the way of sales, but that receivable is growing is because you're not collecting on those receivables. So the receivables aren't shrinking, they're growing in number. And you want to make sure that you're collecting on those receivables. You
Mm.
don't want a large number in receivables. And I did work with a company one time, and this was a small company, but they had over $200,000 in receivables still sitting on their books.
Whoa.
They're not collecting it. I don't know what they were doing or why, but they weren't either. They were recording the deposits wrong and not actually tying it back to a particular invoice or any invoice for that matter. So the receivables are just growing, and they were getting the sales, they were invoicing the customers, but they weren't watching, are we collecting that money? And that's why it's so important to analyze the P&L and the balance sheet. And if you don't, your receivables are overstated, as we
Mm.
accountants like to say. And when it's overstated, your your profit and loss is going to be undervalued or overvalued.
Got it. Okay. Well, this is a lot of really good information. And again, the general business owner or person doesn't really understand bookkeeping unless they hire a bookkeeper or, they're in the finance industry, that kind of thing. So I
Right.
think it's really important that we're having this conversation today because it
Yes.
helps us understand where you fit in into the equation and why it's so valuable. Your service is so incredibly valuable. Like, if somebody doesn't like dealing with their numbers, pass that task off, delegate it to somebody who likes dealing with numbers, which you do. You're a numbers person. So it just makes sense to me. Like, I like delegating tasks that I'm just like, I'm not good at this, or I don't want to do this. This is a massive waste of my time. I can go do something more productive with my time.
Like find new customers.
Exactly. 100%. Or write a book, or, like,
Right.
what do I want to spend my time on? So we're going to challenge the business owners who are listening to delegate more tasks. If you have the extra cash flow, do it because this is potentially your next level in business. If you have the cash flow to hire a bookkeeper, the bookkeeper takes care of X amount of hours per week that you can go spend hunting and gathering or making it rain or doing what you're good at. Like, the business grows. So for me, it just makes sense if you want to elevate the business to the next level and increase your revenue.
Correct.
Well, so what I'm hearing from you, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you really like working with the construction industry people.
Yes, I do. I see that they tend to be the type of businesses that really don't micromanage, and a lot of them know that. A lot of them actually realize they don't know you know what they don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
so with that in mind, they often look to me for my expertise to help them navigate through all of this.
Mm.
So, I've had clients that think, well, I've got a system that does this for me, and I can do this, or I know this, and they don't. And you go in and you look at their books, and they're a complete mess or a wreck, and they're ashamed to admit they don't know what they don't know. But the
Mm.
construction industry, I've had really good uh, I've had really good rapport with them, and they don't want to do bookkeeping, and they just sort of let me handle my profession and
Mm-hmm.
handle what I know, and they usually leave it at that. So I'm not really micromanaged from them.
Mm.
They may have an issue. They may email me and say, "Hey, Brett, I need this researched and stuff like that," and I'll do it, and I'll do that. I'm more than happy to do that for them. but that's about as far as it goes. They're
Hmm.
not standing over me and saying, well, I can do this. I've got a system that does that. And so
Yeah, so
they've been really good clients.
that tells me that you're trustworthy. If your clients aren't having to micromanage you, they trust you, which is really great. So I love building trust with people and building trust with my clients, and it sounds like you just do that naturally.
Right.
That's wonderful. So when you were giving the example of books being a mess, it made me think of a show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's hilarious. It's a female comic and it's set back in like the 1950s or something. So um, when women were breaking into more of like male roles, right? So not a lot of female clients or not a lot of female comics at that time. So I love the show. It's something that I watch for a good laugh and just, some little bit of empowerment for myself. And in that show is her husband's family. They own a business, and the mother takes care of the books. And there's like three separate books, one for the government, one for them, one for their loan sharks. And then they have a treasure map of where they hide the money. It's hilarious. So immediately when you're like, the books are a mess, I'm like, that's where my brain went. It just went straight to that show and it's hilarious. So if you get a chance to watch it, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very cool. So I think we've talked through pretty much everything that I think that the business community needs to know about bookkeeping at this moment. Is there anything that we've missed that you want to share?
Not that I can think of. I mean, other than, there are just in any organization, there are a lot of different roles. There's the treasurers, there's the controllers, there's the bookkeepers, and a lot of these are in the financial area of most corporations, and they all sort of come together or coalesce. The information that the owners or um, uh, the board of directors needs to know.
Mm,
And so there's a lot of when you get into the financial realm of a company, and I'm not talking about the small companies, I'm talking about the larger corporation, the GMs of the world. That's why you have all of these different sectors in the financial area, treasurers, controllers, and really a controller is nothing more than the executive that oversees the accounting department,
okay.
and they're just sort of like watching that over and making sure that the lower level accountants are doing their job, and that they look at other areas of the business. But the more complex the business, the more people you have in charge of the financial area. That's the only thing I can think of. But usually I'm not at that level. Usually I'm more on the. I mean, they may earn $1 million to $2 million a year
Or more.
or more than that, but still they're not hiring treasure. They're not hiring a
Right.
whole force of people. They're just depending on one person, which I can handle.
Yeah.
And one of my clients, I mean, last billing, were about $1 million in one
Hmm.
month. So
Hmm.
it does
Yeah.
happen. It does
Oh,
happen.
yeah. There's a lot of money in the construction industry.
Right.
So it's not uncommon for a small construction company to make a few million.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
very cool. Well, I'm super glad that we had this conversation today. I really, really, really appreciate your time.
Sure.
Um, one of the questions I like to ask when I think about doing it, I don't do it all the time, but what is one way that you keep a wealthy mind?
One way I keep a wealthy mind is I do a lot of journaling. I have
Mm,
a book which I do a lot of journaling, and I kind of write my goals down in there. And a lot of it is nothing more than just brainstorming. What hits my mind at that time, I'll write it down and then kind of re-review it and say, okay, am I on track for this? What do I need to do to get to that level? And what were some of the errors I made in the past so that I can move away from those and more towards what I want, what I foresee as a successful roadmap to where I'm trying to get to.
I love that. You journal business strategy.
Yes.
It's not common for me to hear those two phrases together, journaling and business strategy. I love it.
Good.
Yeah, very good. No, you have a strategic mind, and I really appreciate that. Like, I love strategy. I love business strategy. Like, it's one of my favorite things on the planet. So, um, I really appreciate how you blend two things together that are very effective and very helpful. And there's just something special about when you write it out. Sometimes it's clearer.
Right.
And sometimes you're like, okay, I wrote that out. No, I don't like it. But then you're like, whoa, light bulb.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a writer, so I understand those moments. I understand, like, I shifted from like journaling for a very long time in my 20s and 30s. And now it's just like I focus on writing. I write books and I write trainings and like talks, and it's shifted, but I'm still writing, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
my aha moments come a little bit differently than just like the standard journaling, but I love it. It's all super powerful. Um, there's something special about getting the information into your brain if you want it to stick, or something getting out of your brain if you're writing it out with a pen or a pencil on paper. It's a very special connection to the brain.
Sure.
And I'm not a doctor, so I can't explain that connection, but it just works. And anybody that has journaled or gone through any self-growth in that way, they understand it. They understand the power of just writing it out. So good on you for keeping that practice. Love it. So, Bret, we are going to go ahead and get wrapped up for today. And
Okay.
I would love for you to tell the audience your website so they can find you.
Okay. Well, it's www.wickers, and that's spelled Wickers. Wait a minute. .com.
Wickers Bookkeeping, right?
Yeah, wickersbookkeeping.com.
.com. Okay.
Right. And bookkeeping is spelled 2 O's, 2 K's, and 2 E's.
Yeah, people can figure that one out.
All right. So anyway, but yeah, so wickersbookkeeping.com. Right.
Very nice. All right, you guys, you heard it here. I love this podcast. It is the financial masterclass that every business owner needs, or anybody else who listens to us. So, to learn more about Bret, please check him out on his website, wickersbookkeeping.com. And until next time, we will see you guys soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.